She is not my niece, she is my daughter. People never doubted Ivy Kane's love for Electra. Ivy's love was open, raw, and sometimes even desperate in a family that knew how to be polite and show affection in a smart way. She floated. She paid too much attention. She got too angry when Electra got hurt. For a long time the answer was simple. Ivy was the aunt who stepped in when she needed to. The sister who gave up. The woman who never got married or settled down because she put her family before herself. That story had been told so many times that it became true, but it wasn't. The real truth came out when Ivy was alone in her room and the walls couldn't judge her. The past came back to her like an old pain. It lived in a hospital room decades ago. In the smell of antiseptic and fear. In a signature she never thought she'd have to sign. And in a baby she was told she could never keep. Electra was not her niece. She was the mother of her daughter. The lie started on a stormy night when Ivy was only 20 and still thought love could save her. She had fallen hard and carelessly for a man who promised her forever, but disappeared as soon as reality made him responsible. Ivy didn't tell anyone when she found out she was pregnant. Not her parents, not her sister, and not even herself in a real way. She finished college by pretending that stress was nausea, ambition was exhaustion, and fear was just the price of growing up. It was too late to control the truth by the time it couldn't be hidden anymore. The Kane family had always cared a lot about how things looked. People didn't put up with scandals, they dealt with them. Ivy's parents acted quickly and decisively when they found out she was pregnant. Before Ivy could even cry, a plan was made. Her older sister, who was married, stable, and wanted a child very badly, would raise the baby as her own. Ivy would be the aunt, and the family would stay together. No one outside the house would ever find out. Ivy fought. She yelled. She begged. But she was young, depended on money, and was scared of losing everything. Ivy held Electra for exactly 3 minutes after she was born, but her mother gently but firmly took her away from her. That moment took something away from Ivy that never came back. From then on, Ivy was always in a state of conflict. Her mother was in her heart, but her aunt was in the world. Ivy watched over Electra like someone guarding a miracle. Even though she grew up in comfort, privilege, and love, Ivy felt every scraped knee, every fever, and every heartbreak in her own heart. She knew how Electra felt before Electra did. Before anyone said anything, she knew something was wrong. She remembered her laugh, her smell, and how she tilted her head when she wasn't sure. People called it gut feeling. They were right. The threat changed as Electra grew older. Teenage rebellion, reckless relationships, and the slow, painful realization that the Kane family's world wasn't as safe as it seemed took the place of childhood illnesses. There were lies everywhere. Money manipulation, emotional abuse, and alliances based on convenience instead of love. Ivy saw everything very clearly, and it hurt because she knew exactly what that world had already taken from her. And she wouldn't let it take Electra either. Ivy really crossed a line for the first time when Electra was 17. A powerful man with a nice smile was interested in her. But everyone else thought Ivy was being too protective. But Ivy knew right away that it was dangerous. She had seen that smile before, felt that kind of attention, and trusted it once. She quietly stepped in, pulling strings, revealing truths, and ruining reputations if she had to. Ivy never told Electra how or why the man left her life. She didn't need to be thanked. She had to keep her daughter safe. If Electra hadn't started asking questions, the lie might have lasted forever. Started out fine, why didn't she look like her mom? Why did Ivy get so upset about some family stories? Why did it seem like her birth certificate had been changed? Every question made Ivy's chest feel tighter. She was sure this day would come. She just never thought it would hurt this much. Years later, Electra reached her breaking point when she found herself at the center of a scandal that could have ruined her career, her reputation, and her sense of self. People made accusations. There were threats of legal action. The family came together, but only in some ways. Some people thought Electra was useless and needed to be let go. Ivy watched her daughter die. At that point, Ivy stopped acting like she was just an aunt. She told lawyers lies. She changed the evidence. She faced people who had never seen her lose control before. Ivy did something she had promised herself she would never do. She threatened to tell the truth when someone said they would reveal old family secrets to bring Electra down. Not the easy truth. The real one. She is my daughter. Ivy said in a voice that shook the room, but only one person heard it. Not my niece. And if you touch her, I'll set fire to this whole family. The words tasted like both freedom and fear at the same time. Electra never knew how close Ivy came to ruining everything for her. She never knew how many nights Ivy stayed up practicing the confession that could change their lives forever. It wasn't just about being honest, it was also about what would happen if you were honest. It would change who Electra is, break the family beyond repair, and make Ivy remember the hardest choice she ever made. But secrets don't last. And this one was making everything sick. The truth came out not in a big public reveal, but in a quiet, heartbreaking talk. Electra had followed Ivy, trapped her with proof and gut feeling, and asked for the one thing Ivy had never given her. The whole story. Ivy lost it. She told her about the room in the hospital, about the sign, about the time she saw someone else take her baby and leave. She told her about every time she wanted to scream the truth but was too scared to do it. She told her about the love that never changed, only how it looked. I didn't protect you because I'm your aunt, Ivy said, crying tears she had been holding back for years. I kept you safe because you are my daughter, because losing you once almost killed me, and I won't lose you again. For a long time Electra didn't say anything. When she finally did, Ivy was surprised at how steady her voice was. You've always been my mother, she said. I just couldn't find the right words. That didn't make everything better. That's not how soap operas work. There were betrayals to deal with, relationships to change, and a family that had to deal with the damage that came from being too obsessed with how things looked. Ivy didn't get away without getting hurt. Truth never lets you go. But for the first time, Ivy was in the light as who she really was. Not the dutiful sister, not the bossy aunt, and not the woman who quietly gave up everything. She was a mom. And Electra was no longer just someone she kept safe. She was someone she could finally say was hers. Electra didn't yell, blame, or run away. She just left. She walked around the house like a guest who wasn't sure if they wanted to stay the night. She politely answered questions, avoided Ivy's gaze, and spent long hours locked in her room, as if she were rebuilding herself from the inside out. Ivy knew that quiet. It was the sound of someone going over every memory they had ever trusted. Every laugh. Every comfort. Every lie told for her own good. Ivy gave her space even though it felt like punishment. She had waited decades to hear someone call her mother. She could wait a little longer to be forgiven. Ivy didn't expect the rest of the family to react so strongly. The Kane family had been through affairs, financial crimes, and public shame. But this was different. This wasn't a scandal. It was an indictment. Ivy's confession didn't just reveal a secret. It also revealed her plans, options, manage, and the fact that the family gave up one daughter's freedom to protect the image of another. Electra's legal mother, who was once so calm and right, broke down under the pressure. Yes, she had loved Electra. But love that comes from need is weak. And now it was clear that she had borrowed bones to become a mother. One night, she whispered to Ivy in the darkened living room. She was supposed to be mine. You gave her to me. Ivy said no without hesitation. You took her. And I let you. That difference broke up what was left between them. At the same time, the scandal surrounding Electra came back with a vengeance. Someone had leaked old papers that were full of lies that were made into weapons. The timing was perfect. Ivy knew right away that this wasn't a coincidence. Someone was taking advantage of the family's problems, hoping that the chaos would keep them busy. They were correct. But they didn't think about how strong a mother with nothing to lose could be. Ivy went back to the version of herself she had buried years ago. The sharp, strategic woman who knew that power isn't something you hold, but something you deny others. She followed the money, found the alliances, and discovered the person pulling the strings. A trusted family member who had always been jealous of Electra's place in the family. The message was clear. You were never going to make it through this. Ivy did what she thought was best. She spoke the truth more loudly. This time it wasn't said behind closed doors. There was a record of it. By law. Not able to be changed. Ivy changed records, filed sworn statements, and made sure that if Electra ever needed proof of her lineage, her intent, or her love, it would be there for her. When Electra finally asked her about it, her voice shook. You didn't ask me, she said. You made up your mind again. Ivy took a deep breath. You are right. And I'm sorry, but I needed the world to stop being able to get rid of you. At that moment, Electra realized something very important. Ivy wasn't trying to control her. She was trying to hold her down. The real reckoning came when the bad guy went too far and threatened Electra directly, saying that her very existence was the family's biggest weakness. This time, Ivy didn't wait for lawyers. She didn't plan ahead. She went to him on her own. Ivy said calmly, "You think the truth makes me weak, but it set me free. And you need to understand something very clearly." She leaned in, her voice low and deadly. "I lost my daughter once already. I made it through. You've got the wrong idea about who I am if you think I won't kill you to keep her alive." The threat wasn't very loud. Didn't have to be. The scandal fell apart in a matter of weeks. There was proof. The testimonies changed. The associate became irrelevant, and his credibility was ruined beyond repair. Electra was cleared. Not clean, not untouched, but standing. And what about Ivy? Ivy stood next to her. Not in the dark. Not behind the role of aunt. Just there. Mom. The last scene of that chapter wasn't as dramatic as outsiders would have thought. No yelling. No public statement. Ivy and Electra sat together at dawn, tired and foggy. Electra said quietly, "I don't know what to call you." Ivy smiled softly, sadly, and patiently. "You don't have to call me anything yet." Still, Electra reached for her hand. That was enough. Electra stayed put. Everyone thought she would. The house felt like it was full of lies and looks that lasted too long. But she stayed anyway, as if leaving would mean giving up the right to know what her life had really been like. Instead, she quietly changed her world. She stopped asking for permission. She stopped talking about herself. She started to look at people the way Ivy always had. That scared Ivy more than anything else could. Electra began to remember things, little things that suddenly made sense. Ivy's hand was always on her back in public places. Ivy's voice in the middle of the night after a nightmare. Ivy was the one who got calls from schools, hospitals, and police stations. The aunt who always said yes. The aunt who never went away. The realization was both comforting and hard to bear. "You raised me," Electra said one afternoon, almost as if it were no big deal, while looking through old photo albums. "Everyone else just took me." Ivy didn't say anything. She was afraid that if she did, she would fall apart from the relief of being seen. But not everyone in the family was ready to accept the truth. The woman who had raised Electra, who was the only mother she had ever known, started to fall apart in public. She was very quick to correct people when they called Ivy anything other than a sister. She kept reminding Electra of the things she had done for her, like changing her diapers and packing her school lunches. Love became a competition. Brittle. "You can't change the past," she said one night. Electra looked her in the eye. "I'm not going to change it. I'm reading the parts you didn't want me to see." That's when the family split up. Not easily, but with a lot of pain. People picked sides in whispers. The invitations changed. Names were taken out of wills, then quietly put back in, and then threatened again. Ivy watched it all with the strange calm of someone who had already lost everything once. They couldn't take anything else away from her. They could only show themselves. At the same time, Electra's sense of self began to break apart and come back together. She looked for medical records, journals from the past, nurses who remembered a young woman crying in a hallway many years ago. Every confirmation hurt, but it also gave her strength. It wasn't a dream. She wasn't insane. Someone else had planned her life without her permission, and Ivy had always been the only truth in it. One night, Electra finally asked Ivy the question she had been dreading. "Did you ever wish you hadn't kept me?" Ivy didn't think twice. "Not once. I wished every day that I could call myself your mother." Electra took a deep breath. "Even when I made a mistake, even when I made the family look bad." Ivy moved closer. "Especially then." That was the time when things changed for good. Electra didn't fully forgive the lie, but she took the love. In a soap opera, acceptance is worse than forgiveness because it makes people do things. Electra made the choice to fight back. Not very loudly. Not in an emotional way. In a strategic way. She reopened her case, not the scandal itself, but the systems that had made it so easy for her to be targeted. She did what Ivy told her to do and learned how to do it. The student outperformed the teacher faster than Ivy had expected. Ivy learned how to stay alive and Electra learned how to be exposed. You don't protect people by hiding anymore, Electra said. You keep them safe by making it too expensive to hurt them. Ivy knew that voice. It was her own, polished, sharpened, and changed. The bad guy didn't stay dead. They never do. A new threat appeared, this one more dangerous, quieter, and more institutional. Questions about whether Electra is real. The money she got. Her right to the family name. The truth that had set Ivy free was now a legal weapon. The lawyers said, she's biologically yours. But in the eyes of the law, she might not belong to anyone. Ivy got up so quickly that her chair fell over. She said, she is mine. Every way that matters. But this wasn't a courtroom drama yet. This was a game of chess. It was a shock to everyone that Electra was the one to step forward in public. Not to confess, not to say sorry, but to define herself. She said in a calm, heartbreaking interview, I was raised in a lie. But I was really loved. And I won't let anyone use my past to destroy my future. The answer was very different. There was both support and criticism. Ivy stood on the sidelines, her heart in her throat, knowing that this was the moment she had always been afraid of. Electra standing alone in the world, fully visible. But she wasn't by herself. Ivy stood behind her, hand steady on her shoulder, just like it always had been. The season ended with a final quiet beat. Not with a bang. Ivy and Electra stood next to each other in front of a mirror. Two ladies. Same look in the eyes. Same position. Same stubborn refusal to go away. Electra spoke up.